my co-host today is Sarah Hicks. She's a senior sales development rep here at Predictable Revenue. She's also a co-host on the Predictable Revenue podcast. I've been kind of passing things off on her lately. She's also been my host my co-host today. I'm Colin Stewart. I'm one of the co-founders, co-CEOs, and co-hosts of the episode today. And I'm with Predictable Revenue. Today we also have, right now we've got joining us Jeroen. He's the co-founder and CEO of Salesflare, a CRM built for SMBs selling B2B. He's super popular with agents and SaaS companies. And it's one of the most popular or the most popular CRM on Product Hunt and is top rated on review platforms like G2. And then we also have a lifelong international B2B remote sales specialist, Jakob, and you founded YourSales, and you guys help clients with revenue growth. And you guys do lead gen dedicated reps for SaaS companies all over the world. So Jakob, am I saying that right? Is it Jakob or Jakob?
That's perfectly all right, man. I've been doing business internationally for so long. I've heard it in all sorts of languages. So Jakob is fine.
What's the correct way, the non-anglicized or Americanized version?
I guess Jakob is the Danish, so I'm a Danish national, so okay. Jakob is the Danish way. The Dutch would go Jakob. The Germans would do something similar. But you know, it's all English here. It's the new lingua franca, right? So Jakob is fine.
Perfect. Well, I'll do my best. Yeah, Jakob. Jakob?
That's good.
Perfect. Good, but not it.
It is all, like I said, as long as I know you're talking to me.
Perfect. Okay, so I know we've got. I believe you guys have some slides, and so I'm gonna pass it to Jeroen and Jakob, and let you guys take over. And then I'll come in. I'll still be here, but I'm gonna bug us in about 20 minutes, and probably about 15 to 20 minutes, so we can get some Q&A happening.
So I'm Jeroen, co-founder at Salesflare. Jakob and I will be talking today about remote selling. It's something we've both been doing for quite a while. And me at Salesflare since I think about 1 year into when we started, and Jakob I think for almost this complete career. So that's why I asked Jakob to join us on the call. It also helps us to sort of give you two views on what's going on here. So 2020 started nice and bright like any other year, and we all thought we had certain goals, certain expectations, but these things quickly changed. I don't know whether many of us saw this coming, but this little virus had such a big impact on us all, making that we all had to start social distancing. This is a picture actually of a friend of mine. She took it in at a fries place in Belgium. That's a thing in Belgium. And they're all nicely social distancing. And this doesn't affect only people standing in line for a fries place or a bakery. It affects people in all industries. Many things are going different, but here today we're here to talk about sort of the new way, or like people say it nowadays, the new normal in sales. Because sales usually, for many people still, is a very sort of direct job. You actually talk face to face with a person. So when you start social distancing, it totally changes. And the most frequent questions Jakob and I are getting about this change are sort of fourfold. A lot of businesses can't rely on the same sort of lead generation they had before. That's a big change. Second big change is that meetings are not the way they expect them to be anymore. They go remote. A third thing is that when you take this whole process that you used to sort of partly have offline, online, you lose control a little bit, and that's a sort of an adaptation. And then fourth, and a very important one as well, is the effect it has on you psychologically. It puts a certain amount of pressure, and we'll talk about that and how to deal with it. Jakob and I will switch between the different parts. I guess we can take questions in between. Otherwise, we'll take them at the end or in the Slack room. So first part, how to keep generating leads. A lot of pipelines are being slashed. This is not just in industries that are directly affected, but if you have clients in a certain industry, that might happen as well. And it makes that more active sales outreach, the kind that predictable revenue is helping you to offer, is more relevant than ever. You cannot rely on the leads you have anymore. You need to get more. These are some of the obvious ways, just summarizing the main 3 channels you can probably use in B2B sales, which is sending emails, connecting on LinkedIn, and getting people on the phone. And there's a whole lot of automation you can use in these areas. So definitely look at that. You can send email sequences. You can use Sales Navigator and use tools in that, or use advanced dialers to really be able to do a lot of work there in little time. Another thing that salespeople do a lot in the normal world is networking, and that's just not possible anymore offline. And then the question people ask is, how do I replace this online? I mean, well, as far as we do it at Salesflare, and it's something we covered also earlier podcast with Colin, was how we approached a lot of people online, and these are sort of the channels that have worked for us. One is answering questions on Quora. It's sort of a knowledge-based network where if you answer questions around the topic you're working on, you can get a lot of traffic and a lot of interest going. A second one is, I think the way even Jakob and I met, I'm not exactly sure, or maybe we met when he got on our software, I'm not sure. But we're certainly in similar Facebook groups. Like there's a Facebook group for SaaS companies called SaaS Growth Hacks. There's many really great Reddit communities out there. Those are definitely good for the sort of networking you normally do offline. And actually at Salesflare, we combine the 2 things. So we have the networking that goes on in Facebook groups. And then when we go to conferences, that sort of moves all offline as well, which strengthens the relationships significantly. Something we've been very successful at as well, like Colin said in the intro, is launching products in Product Hunt. It's the main place if you have a product to launch, because publications like TechCrunch don't care so much about launches anymore. They just care about funding rounds. So if you want to launch something, this is the place. This is where all the people who follow new products will find your newest baby. And slightly related to that, something that has been working for us quite well as well. It's not really networking, but it's on social networks, is advertising. And I must say that the prices there have dropped significantly in the last few weeks or months already in the meantime, as many people are saving money and taking some ad budget away. Trying to go to the next slide. And then obviously what we're doing here right now. I'm actually speaking at 3 events today. There was one on the podium at the bottom left, this one, and there was another one in the morning as well. It's never been easier to attend multiple conferences, network there, speak there. So really, with the minimal cost and minimal effort that it takes, enjoy this moment, I would say. We don't know whether this is still going to be the case after the whole COVID situation is over. And it's a great way for everyone to explore what the possibilities are in this area. And definitely a big opportunity for sales. I don't know whether there's any questions in the meantime. Oh, let me go back. Pull up the chat.
Yeah, I don't see any questions right now, Jeroen. I think we'll just handle them as they come in, and otherwise, there's plenty of time to engage with us after the presentation as well, to come up with any questions you may have. Yeah, so that's no problem. I think so. Good to hear, Lisa. So when we have done all the stuff that Jeroen was just talking about, in order to generate more leads, we arrive at a point in time where we want to start having conversations with people, remote meetings, be they over the phone, over things like Zoom or similar come into play. And so some of the things that we want to talk about here is what are some of the things that you can do to jump through the screen and make things as personal or close to as personal as they would be in your traditional setting. So in your traditional face-to-face setting. So basically, you want to try to make as much of an impact as you otherwise would as well. Just jumping one back, let's go forward instead. And have the kind of impact that you would while working in the office. So we need to be even more personable during video calls. What that means is that you basically, when you're in calls and when you're working from home, as many of us are now during lockdown, you gotta not worry so much about doing things perfectly. Everybody understands that we are now in a situation where we can have cats walking all over our keyboards, and we can have dogs barking in the background, the neighbor sawing whatever it is that he's doing, kids barging in, and that is just gonna have to be okay because we're now in a setting that is not designed for work. And that we're just trying to do the best in, and showing that to people and being a little bit more casual about the unexpected, non-professional events happening is going to make you look more human, and it's going to be more personal, and it's going to make you feel better about the whole thing, to just be a little more relaxed. So while you do that, also try to start being at least as aware of your own actions and your voice pitch and tempo and pauses, in order to make sure that you are able to communicate what it is you want to communicate to the people that you have in your chat room, in your video call, on the telephone. And this can be more or less important on the telephone versus video, but either way, your attitude and demeanor and the sound and pitch and temper of your voice is going to be every bit as important as every single word you say about whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And be more mindful of everybody else's, of your conversational partners' opinion, their thinking, their thoughts, and their situation. So, and take the time to be thoughtful about them. Give them the space to think through the responses to questions that you throw out. It's going to help you significantly. And of course, also an important component of doing the whole online thing is going to do online demos, in particular for the ones that are selling software, but not exclusively those, because everybody else is going to want to, at some point, maybe do a sales presentation, go through a slide deck. And what's super important here is to remember that it's all about the buyers that you're talking to, or your team members that you're communicating with. So it's about their situation, keeping that in mind and tuning everything that you're doing and that you're communicating to what is important for them. Just show what's relevant and relevant for your audience's situation, nothing else. And as soon as you're done showing what it was you were there to, as soon as you're done showing what it was you wanted to show, switch off the screen sharing, flip back to video, so you again have full focus together with your conversation partner, so that there's no distraction from software, from slide decks, from the conversation that you're having with the individual that you're having that conversation with. So when you go outside of the live environment, when things move from synchronous communication to asynchronous communication, there are also a couple of solutions, and you'll know many of these already. Even if we all know these solutions already, personally, I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn and on email every single day from sales reps and sales leaders, and yet I very rarely get video messages, so feel free and go and send some. But the point is that you need to stand out from the crowd, and by sending a video message that is interesting for the recipient, you'll be able to stand out much more easily than if you wouldn't. And Jeroen and I believe we both use these solutions. We have different preferences, and they have slightly different use cases. I saw earlier today that in particular Vidyard and Drift are used a lot for sales engagement, whereas Loom may be used a little bit more for screen, grabbing a piece of your screen and sharing that. I'm personally using the Drift video solution a lot. And Jeroen, what was your preference again?
I use a lot of Loom actually for everything. I would like to use Bonjoro more for our customers, but I haven't done it yet. So Loom, you can both do screen sharing and then see your face, and it's super easy to record stuff. So it's good for me. I love the Drift video you did for us. It looked really good.
There you go. So these here, the main point is that this here software will set you apart. Most of these here have, Hector says that he hasn't thought about sending video messages through LinkedIn. So send it through anything, and we'll get to that in a minute, actually, Hector. So stick around. So most of these software packages have a freemium model, and you can use them for nothing until you really need their pro features. So if we step it up from doing the asynchronous video, going over to direct messaging, then we have the instant messaging apps. I'll cut this one short and just say that if you want to communicate with people on a platform where there's less professional communication going on, that are maybe more traditionally for friends and family, these are the places that will get checked always, and where you have a higher chance of getting through the noise than over on, for instance, email or with cold calling. And in fact, probably what you want to do is you want to use a mix of all of these channels in order to make sure to be able to communicate with your client where they are. Jeroen, over to you.
Yeah. In the meantime, I actually answered a few questions in the Q&A section of Zoom. One question is whether to use Zoom virtual backgrounds. I'm personally totally against it. It's sort of horrible when you start moving around and takes away a lot of attention from the meeting, in my opinion. Another thing that somebody asked was how to make a video conference personal. I think we answered the question. If there's any left related to that, we can go more in detail. And then another question from anonymous attendee was whether these video services require the prospect to download an app. No, that's not the case. You can just download it and use it in any browser. The additional advantage is that you can see whether people actually view it. You get an email with Loom, for instance.
You may need to download a Chrome extension
to record it, but you don't need to download a Chrome extension to view it.
No.
Then towards closing these deals, somebody said bandwidth is a problem. Okay. If bandwidth is a problem, indeed, changing your internet is probably a good idea. I think internet companies are making a lot of money now. On the sales process, it turns fully digital, and that's a thing we actually started focusing on a lot from the beginning of Salesflare. Basically, when you do online sales, is this huge black box where you don't know what's happening, and sometimes you get a reply. On the other hand, you can track much more data, and you can automate much more because so much more of it is digital. So first tip, don't do everything via email. Email is a very nice channel, but it also creates a large distance between you and the prospect. You need to have these nicely typed out emails of a few paragraphs, and then you send it over and you get something back. While with chat, you can be much more personal. You can actually have a conversation, small messages back and forth, which connects much easier with your prospects. A tip I want to give you is to connect with everyone on LinkedIn. Actually connect with every person who signs up for Salesflare with a company email address on LinkedIn automatically, and ask them for feedback. Plus, that also makes that if you start sharing things on LinkedIn and start discussions, prospects and customers often chime in, and then you can really deepen these relationships as well. Obviously, within the sales process, it's very easy to drop leads, and I see so many people organizing their leads in funny ways. that make that they lose a lot of revenue. If you choose a system, there's basically 3 things to look for, and you'll find that in most CRMs. One is an overview of what you're working on. A second is a list of what to do when. And third is sort of your memory. It's your memory of what has been discussed with each customer when, what all the touch points you were that you had with them. And that will save you a ton of lost deals and unhappy customers. Then in remote selling, it's more important than ever to really focus on the process and to make it as swift and frictionless as possible, because it's super easy for people that are sort of at the other side of another computer screen to ignore you. If they don't like your email, they archive it, mark it as spam, leave it somewhere. It doesn't matter. You need to make sure that it doesn't drop anywhere along the way, that it's always super easy for them. So for yourself, always focus on the next step and clearly define for yourself what every next step in your sales process is, so you can actually focus on that. And second, for the customer, make it super easy, reduce all the frictions, and use something like a scheduling tool. For instance, I use You Can Book Me, Jakob uses Calendly. There's many other options out there. But it saves you so many emails and reduces that friction towards booking that meeting significantly, which is just one of the things where you can reduce the friction and just close more sales. Over to you, Jakob.
Oh, excellent. So I'll just keep switching back and then forward again. All right. So the final thing that we'll be talking about is how you keep your momentum, how you keep on your motivation to stay in the grind and keep on fighting for more deals for the company that you're working for or for your own business. So that is what we're going to share a couple of slides about here. Again, feel free to ask any questions. If we run out of time, we'll be answering those in the Slack room afterwards. So what's most important? So in your minds, you could ask yourself, what is most important to you? Is it going to be working with the right kinds of habits? Or is it more going to be goal focused and just make sure to make a list of your goals and go for them? So in my mind, what's definitely going to be helping you the most is to be process oriented and build strong habits that will take you to your goals. So what you want to do is you want to find out what your input level sales quotas are, and that could be things like sending out LinkedIn invitations or doing calls or emails and having meetings and so on and so forth. And you want to make sure what those daily habits are going to be, and then executing them on a daily basis. Working with your team to look at what those habits are and share them at a team basis. Maybe operate together in a CRM system and note down your opportunities and your tasks and your calls and emails and meetings and so forth. And you can also put up a glass jar and throw a coin in every single time you've done the kind of behavior that you really want to reward yourself for doing. We recommend doing it together with a CRM system because you definitely want to have a record of everything that you do. So, and in addition to these kinds of habits that you have with your clients, you also want to have habits with your teams and your colleagues. Make sure that you have daily or weekly pipeline reviews. You want to have stand-up meetings and organize informal moments where you can chat together about what's going on in the company. You want to try to basically make sure that all of the energy that you had in the office with all of your colleagues still comes out and still helps everyone get that social boost that they need to carry on. And now that is not possible to its fullest extent, maybe there's still a couple of things you can do to avoid having all of your sort of your work energy being sucked out of you. So actually going ahead and boosting some of your work energy with non-work activities that you otherwise maybe have not found the time to do. So make sure that you may have been spending a lot of time in your commute, or you've been spending time out for lunch, and now that you're stuck at home, unfortunately, you can try to use that as an opportunity to do a couple of things that might have slipped out of your daily schedule, like taking a run, taking up your stamp collecting activities again, going fishing, whatever it is that you are missing. Taking care of your physical health, by the way, is shown to have an immediate impact on how you perform in sales. Now that you're stuck at home as well, maybe that is a good time to get to know some of the people that you're stuck there with. Maybe get to know your family just a little bit, giving you a huge boost and also helping you a lot with how those relationships work for you in the future. So that's going to help you, and that's going to give you energy again as well when that goes really well. By and large, what you need to do is make sure that you keep at it, that you look forward, stay positive, whatever it takes to stay on track. Basically, do something great and stay safe and good selling. That's it for us for now. Anybody have any questions here? Let me see what's going on here. Jeroen, you already shared a couple of things.
Yeah, I answered a few questions. There was a very good question. Somebody asked about the psychological barriers with customers as well, because the customers are sort of at a distance. It's harder to reach them. This whole COVID situation has a lot of impact on them. And I shared a personal story where there was a customer who a few months ago told me he saves $1 million a year by using Salesflare. And then he came to us and he said, I want to cancel because I want to save costs. And all I had to do was to remind him that this thing probably did not change to sort of get him back. Some people just get a bit crazy with the whole situation, although I think that's getting better now. Some rational arguments can flip that, I think.
Perfect. I think that's all the time we have for questions and answers today. I thank you both for joining us. Coming up next on the stream, we have it is a Q&A, I believe, I'm just going to make sure I've got this right. We have a roundtable focusing on honing your pitch with Patrick E. McLean. He's so we're going to get to that in a minute. Jeroen, Jakob, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.